And when he got there, he was shocked by what he saw. He saw Ikenna and Adobi together in Ikenna's house, and they were holding each other like lovers. Once upon a time, there lived a young man named Ndo. Ndo was a handsome, hardworking young man who had lost his both parents during the time of war. Ndo is the only son of his parents, but had lost his parents at the age of 18. Now he is 26. Ndo has lived alone in his village since the passing of his parents. Ndo is a hardworking farmer who sells his farm produce to make a living. Ndo was not rich, but people admired his courage and strength because he was able to take care of himself after the passing of his parents. Ndo had a girlfriend named Adobi who had agreed to date Ndo and wait until he was ready to get married. They both loved themselves very much. Adobi is a very beautiful young lady who is well known in the village for her beauty and her good character towards the people of the village. The villagers often talked about how beautiful and well-mannered she is. Adobi believed in Ndo. She inspired and strengthened him with her love and kindness. The love between Ndo and Adobi was so strong that people were even jealous of their relationship. Adobi had a particular time she visited Ndo every day. Sometimes they cooked together and they went to farm together. And because of the love that Ndo has for Adobi, sometimes Ndo carried men to Adobi's father's farm to help them with the work on the farm because they didn't have male children. So Adobi's parents loved Ndo and took him like a son. Adobi's parents are Mbano and Ngozi. Mbano is an average village farmer who didn't have much because in those days people gave birth to many male children, so there would be men to farm their lands. So people who had male children were more successful in farming. But Mbano had no male children. They had only one female child, which is Adobi. One fateful day, Ndo's old secondary school friend named Ikenna, who had traveled out of the village to further his education after their secondary school, had come back from the city. Ikenna came from a rich family, so they were able to send him to school. But Ndo couldn't further his education because he lost his parents just immediately after secondary school. Ikenna's father, Chief Obodo, was a successful farmer because he had many sons and men who worked for him. So Chief Obodo, his sons, and his men worked together on their farm, and they often sent their children to school, one after the other. So Ikenna decided to visit his old friend Ndo, whom he had not seen since their secondary school days. And Ikenna got to Ndo's house and met Ndo and his girlfriend Adobi. Ndo was so happy to see his old friend Ikenna. He welcomed him, they embraced each other, and they were so excited. So Ndo introduced Ikenna to his girlfriend Adobi. Ndo said to Ikenna, "Ikenna, this is my girlfriend, the love of my life, Adobi." Ikenna, looking at Adobi, he said, "Your girlfriend is very beautiful. How are you, Adobi?" Adobi replied, "I'm fine, Ikenna. You are welcome." The beauty of Adobi caught the attention of Ikenna. They both looked at each other suspiciously as if they knew each other, but Ndo did not notice. It happened to be that when they were in secondary school, Ikenna asked Adobi out, but she never agreed to his request. But seeing that Adobi is now more beautiful than then, he became interested again, and without thinking about his friend, he decided to go for the girl again because he couldn't resist her beauty. After that day, Ikenna sent some men to monitor Adobi's movement, so he would know where and how to get to her. After some days of monitoring her, they came back to Ikenna with the information he wanted. So Ikenna decided to go for the girl. One morning, Adobi was running an errand for her mother when Ikenna stopped her. and started talking to her. Ikenna began to ask Adobi out again, convincing her to become his woman, but she still didn't agree. Ikenna said, "Adobi, I came back for you. Please, I'm asking you to give me a chance. You know how much I've loved and wanted you. Please, if there's even a small part of you that feels drawn to me, then I urge you to listen to it." Adobi said, "Ikenna, I understand how you feel about me. I also admire the fact that you still think of me even after all these years. But I'm sorry, I belong to someone else now. I can't leave him. Please try and understand." Ikenna said, "Adobi, I'll take care of you. I'll give you anything you want. I'll give you what Ndo cannot give to you." Adobi said, "Ndo is your friend. Why do you want to betray your friend and take away his girl? You are so heartless. Please, I'm out of here." Adobi walked away from Ikenna and they went their separate ways. But Adobi didn't tell Ndo what had happened because she was afraid that he might get angry. So Ikenna continued trying to get Adobi, but she refused. He even tried to use money to convince her, but she never agreed. Ikenna decided to go through Adobi's parents because he knew they were not so rich, so he planned to use money to convince Adobi's parents. One day, Ikenna carried so many gifts and food items to Adobi's parents' house and gave them so much money, the kind of money they had never seen before. And he told them how he loved their daughter and that he had been trying to talk to her, but she refused. He also went ahead and told them how he plans to take care of Adobi, also them and their family, if they can give him Adobi to marry. The parents of Adobi, seeing the kind of money they've never seen before, considering how their lives will change if their daughter marry Ikenna, they decided to give in to Ikenna's request, and they assured him that their daughter will marry him, and they forgot about their relationship with Ndo and everything Ndo had done for them because of his love for their daughter. While they were talking, Adobi walked in and noticed what Ikenna was trying to do. She called Ikenna to the corner and began to talk to him. Adobi said to Ikenna, "Ikenna, I appreciate your persistence, but I've already told you that I am committed to Ndo. I understand that you care, but my heart belongs to Ndo. Money isn't everything to me." Ikenna said, "I know, Adobi, but think about what I can offer you. With me, you won't have to worry about anything. You can have a life of luxury, travel the world, and never have to struggle again." Adobi said to Ikenna, "I need to focus on my relationship with Ndo. He is the one I love. Please, I need you to leave my house." Ikenna said to her, "I understand, Adobi, but just know that my offer still stands. If you ever change your mind, I'll be here for you, ready to give you the world." Ikenna left, and Adobi's parents called their daughter inside and began to talk to her. They began to convince her to accept Ikenna. They asked her if she was not tired of poverty. They told her the whole family's life would change if she married Ikenna, but with everything they said, she still did not agree. Adobi told them how much she loved Ndo and believed in Ndo. Parents tried and tried, but still she refused. So the parents had to let it go because they couldn't force their daughter to marry Ikenna. But then, with everything that had happened, Ndo did not know, and Adobi didn't tell him because she didn't want him to feel bad, get angry. One day, Ikenna came to Ndo's house 2 hours before the time that Adobi visits Ndo, and Ikenna asked Ndo to make food so that both of them could eat. So Ndo made food and brought out the food to where they were to eat, and went back inside to bring drinking water. Then Ikenna brought out some substance from his pocket and put inside Ndo's food. So Ndo came back and they ate, and immediately after eating, Ndo began to feel dizzy, and he told Ikenna that he needs to go inside and sleep because he is feeling weak. Ikenna said okay, that he would start going home now. So Ndo went inside and slept. Unknowing to Ndo, Ikenna had planned to set Ndo up. So just after Ndo went into sleep, Ikenna brought in the girl that he had paid to act as Ndo's girlfriend. He asked the girl to go in, lay by his side and act like she's touching him, knowing that the drug had taken Ndo into a deep sleep and he will not know what was happening. So Ikenna stayed close to the house, hiding and watching how everything unfolds. Now the hour that Adobi visits Ndo had come. Adobi came to Ndo's house, walked inside and saw a woman on top of her man. Immediately, Adobi was frozen. Her whole life flashed before her eyes. She was devastated. She couldn't believe what she had just seen. She didn't say anything, and immediately she left the house with a broken heart. At this time, Ikenna has succeeded with his plans. The girl he paid left the house, and Ikenna also left. Adobi went to her house, crying and thinking about her life, thinking that after everything she and Ndo had gone through, Ndo could do something like this to her. Adobi even believed that Ndo was planning to marry another woman and abandon her. She was in pains. She was crying bitterly. Her mother began to console her so she could stop crying. About 6 hours after Ndo slept, he woke up, not knowing what had happened. Then he realized that the hour that Adobi usually visits him had passed, and Adobi did not come. The next day, Ndo waited, and Adobi still did not come. So Ndo decided to go and see Adobi. So he went to Adobi's house. He got there and they told him that Adobi didn't want to see him. And he was confused, not knowing what had happened. They even told him that Adobi doesn't want to ever see him again. Adobi's parents began to insult him and call him names. They told him that after everything Adobi had gone through just to be with him, he could do something like this to her. But he was so confused because he didn't know what they were talking about. Then Adobi's father asked Ndo to leave the house and never come back again. And Ndo left the house in a confused state, not knowing what was happening. Adobi's mother went into the house and began to console Adobi, and she began to remind Adobi how she rejected the rich Ikenna because of a man who doesn't love her. At this time, Adobi had begun to consider Ikenna's request. Ndo got to his house that evening and began to think about what just happened. In total confusion and restlessness, in his mind, he thought, what is happening? Why would Adobi, my love, say she doesn't want me anymore? I am totally confused. I had not done anything to her or her family. Why were her parents insulting and calling me names? What is the meaning of all this? That night, Ndo did not get any sleep, for he was thinking all night. The next morning, Ikenna went to Adobi's house, knowing what he had done, and he began to console Adobi, calming her down and trying to make her feel better. He then began to ask Adobi out again, and this time Adobi accepted Ikenna's request. So Ikenna took Adobi to his house so he could give her a treat and make her feel better. Later that day, Ndo came to Adobi's house again to look for Adobi. He got there and began to beg Adobi's parents that whatever he had done, they should please forgive him and please allow him to see Adobi or tell him what is happening. Ndo said, Mama, Papa, please, I do not know what I have done, but please, whatever it is, please forgive me. Let me see Adobi. I have not slept. I am not even thinking straight again. Please, let me see her. But Adobi's father chased him away with a cutlass and threatened to cut off his legs if he ever came to their house again. Ndo ran away, still confused and not knowing what to do. So later that same day, Ndo decided to go and see his friend Ikenna to tell him what is happening because he doesn't know what to do again. Ndo went to Ikenna's house, and when he got there, he was shocked by what he saw. He saw Ikenna and Adobi together in Ikenna's house, and they were holding each other like lovers. Ndo saw them and became more confused. He didn't understand what he was seeing. Now, at this time, Ndo realized that his friend Ikenna had taken his girlfriend Adobi from him. Ndo tried to confront them, but Ikenna's guys carried Ndo and threw him outside the house. Ndo went home, shattered and devastated, thinking that his life had come to an end. The only family he had known since the passing of his parents had rejected him, and the only woman he had ever loved in his life had left him. Adobi is the only thing that inspired Ndo. She made Ndo work hard so he could get a better life. She made him think less of his lost parents, but now she has betrayed him. Ndo became useless. He became a shadow of himself. He couldn't do anything again, and he was in that state for days. One day, Ndo woke up in the morning and bad thoughts began to go through his mind. He began to think of revenge, and he became a monster. Ndo planned to take revenge on Ikenna for taking away his world. One night, Ndo entered Ikenna's compound and attacked Ikenna with a cutlass and ran away. He thought Ikenna had died, but Ikenna did not die. That night, Ikenna was rushed to the village clinic, where he received medical treatment. The next morning, Ikenna's father, Chief Obodo, sent the village police to Ndo's house, and they arrested Ndo. So they took him for interrogation and began to ask him why he attempted to kill his friend. And Ndo told the police everything that had happened. So they invited Adobi to also question her with Ndo. They questioned both of them. Then Adobi realized everything was planned by Ikenna and that Ndo never cheated on her. They also invited the girl that Adobi saw in Ndo's house, and she confessed that she was paid to do what she did. At this time, Adobi realized that she had made a very big mistake by not telling Ndo anything from the very beginning. Ndo was charged with a murder attempt and was kept in the village prison for some time and was later released. Adobi broke up with Ikenna and never saw him again. When Ndo was released from the prison, Adobi went to Ndo to beg for forgiveness, but Ndo refused to take her back, that he had lost what he felt for her and that she should move on with her life. So they both went their separate ways.